Well, what do we have here? We have a trio of fantastically good-looking golf fanatics. That's how I describe ourselves. We've got myself, Golf Love UK. We've got in the middle, depending how it's looking on your screen, the lovely Sunday Red Harrington, and my partner in crime, Pro Golf Critic. How are you both?
Doing well. It's been a interesting last couple of weeks since our last podcast. A lot going on in the pro golf world per usual. I say that pretty much every episode, but yeah, we got a lot to talk about. So yeah, can't wait to get started.
Yeah, and doing good. Just kind of twiddling my thumbs, waiting for the days of the announcements to come, and hopefully we get a lot of news coming fast and furious here over the next few weeks, and just kind of anticipating that.
And you talk about announcements, and I think there's a few things. So we are Sunday evening in the UK, Sunday afternoon US, on the 8th of December. And at this moment in time, we're not really sure a lot of what's happening in a lot of world golf, if I'm honest. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the PGA Tour, they've got their annual hit and giggle at the minute, which is historically has been much better attended than it has at the moment. For the PGA
Scottie
Tour,
Scheffler Invitational.
Yeah.
Well, it's just
as are most events at the moment. The PGA Tour seems to have their schedule out. There seems to be a lot of confusion still, and there's been a couple of interviews with PGA Tour players who didn't know that the fields have been reduced and the amount of cards given out have been made smaller. Players seem to not actually know this, so there's a lot of confusion going around. But let's be honest, it's not as if 100% the LIV house is in order either. We don't know who the team's going to be. I know that who has to tell us what, but we spent most of the year thinking that whoever won the International Series Order of Merit was guaranteed a place on LIV. Turns out they're not. A week and a half, 2 weeks before, they said, actually, if the leader is a current LIV player, then it doesn't go down. And we all thought it did. There's no one who can tell me they didn't think it did get changed. But 2-3 months ago, everyone thought when LIV ended and it was the end of the season that whoever got that first place in the Order of Merit, whether it was going to go down to whoever's the highest, it wasn't. And there's LIV teams that aren't known. We're having teasers on the iron heads. There was the issue with Tony Finau, which, hands up, we would look. You're shaking your head.
Don't get me started on this thing.
I don't want you to, because while you and I agree on a lot of things, I'm not sure I was as vociferous as you on maybe the leadership and things, but I am going to say that you and I were told by different sources he was going. And we've also since been told by different sources that maybe there was an influence that asked him not to and they didn't want him to. Now, all of that could be smoke and mirrors. It could have been he was never told and we had the wrong information, but we got it from 3 different people.
Yeah.
And we've both been told the same thing about him not going. So I was just going to say, World Golf in the minute doesn't seem like anyone quite knows exactly what their lineups are or what's going on.
No, we'll say it's definitely a little bit chaotic. No question about it. I think that there's a lot of uncertainty, and a lot of it, I mean, let's be honest, it tracks back to the potential deal that still hasn't been finalized. Like, if it was going to be finalized, I expected it to happen some point this month. And we're moving through December pretty quickly, and there's been sort of no confirmations, and just looking at the sort of early list of players in the promotions event, there's not a ton of PGA Tour players in there. So I mean, there's just a lot of general uncertainty going on in the golf world. I'm really trying to restrain myself about the Tony Finau thing, because I think that I was very convinced, for a variety of reasons, that he had basically given his word that he was going to be joining for 2025. I think that there are other influences that sort of pushed him in another direction. I've already tweeted about this a bunch. And my problem with him is, and I'll keep this brief because I don't want to go on a rant, but I kind of am.
Please do keep it brief, because I know how passionate you are about it. And I just, Tony might come and we might, this is the reason I want to keep it brief. It might be what we've been told since wasn't true, and it's a holding pattern. That's the other thing.
It could be. Yeah. Except, I mean, if that's the case, he needs to not say what he said in the media. Like, that's one of the things that drives me nuts, is when these guys, they play coy and they pretend like they haven't been talking to LIV when they have. Shout out Billy Horschel. It's part of the reason why I dislike him the way that I do. And look, I'm putting Tony Finau on that list. And even if he comes over at some point, like, I'm still going to have an issue with it, because like the way things have gone with LIV and the media, it's like we are at this like very critical juncture where like everybody just needs to be honest about what's been going on. So, and if you're not going to be honest about the discussions that you're having and all those things, like, I mean, I'm going to lose respect for you, because this has been a very, it's been very contentious, obviously. And if we're going to come together, like, people just need to be honest. They can't be scared to say, you know what? Yes, I have been talking to LIV and it's been an option for me. That doesn't mean I'm necessarily going to do it. Except putting it out there that they're like, oh, this is just a rumor, and like
random person
there's
was my
nothing
favorite.
behind it.
Yeah,
yeah.
Random
So it's
person.
like, yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, that is a flat out lie. That is just not true. So like when those things happen, it like really gets me upset, which is part of the reason why I'm gonna have a big problem with him going forward into the future. So again, that's kind of keeping it brief, but yeah, I'm not happy about the Tony Finau situation at all. And we really need to, like, everybody just needs to be honest. Like, as much as I've been critical of guys like Jason Day and Justin Rose, at least they've been somewhat transparent or sort of translucent with sort of the discussions that they had with LIV more recently. So shout out to them. I like respect that they have, you know, taken some of the flack. They admitted what's been going on, even if it wasn't like 100% truthful. At least you've said something about it. So that's where I'm sort of drawing the line here.
Yeah.
And Red, what do you make of it all? Because look, you don't necessarily have the same conversations Jay and I have, which are proven to be absolutely inaccurate, based on the results. But obviously, you're, like many people, viewing this through a sort of an adjacent lens. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I mean, I had someone come to me and ask me if I was hearing Tony through LIV sources, if you want to call them that. And it was just simply, it was this thing. It was like, if both sides are hearing it, it seemed to be like it was going to be true. So it's a strange reversal, but we've also seen denials and then confirmed later that they are going to go through with it. All very interesting the way it played out.
Good point. Good point. We have seen that. We have seen lots of denials and then people going.
It's super strange to me in a way that, especially with the whole injury in the knee, like, I don't know why that wasn't out there. If people knew he had an issue, why wasn't that first? Like, why didn't people spill that out and have that come out when he made the, decided WD? So, all very strange the way that just went down. And I think caught a lot of us off guard. And I, for one, I think I'm right there with you. Like, I already had him kind of penciled in. So, it's surprising to see just everybody in general, like how you consider Tony. People first come out, oh, of course it makes sense he's going to LIV because he stinks. He does not going to win. And now he's being heralded as like, oh yeah, he told them to fuck off. It just, the whole thing is a little bit strange. And
yes.
I'm still looking forward to the time that Jay discussed where we have some answers on the side of how things are going to turn out with the deal and the general structure of the entire tours. And we can just move on from whatever this is. Because, it's been like 3 years of gray area that are just kind of tiresome. And I think Tony hopefully will be one of those last stories that we have looked back on of like, this is just ridiculous at this point. So,
yeah, I will say part of that I do like, because I like this is going to sound bad, but I like the PGA Tour being in turmoil. I like them being in this sort of state of uncertainty, because they deserve everything that they're getting. There's no question about that in my mind. And I'm going to continue holding their feet to the fire until some of this skullduggery that they've been doing the past 3 years is over. So, and I need them to own up to it, and I need them to stop doing it. So until they stop doing it, I'm going to continue coming as hard as possible at the PGA Tour. That's just how it's going to be. And they need to just they need to act right. That's where we're at this point, and they haven't done it yet. So, and I know it's not everybody at the PGA Tour. I get
Can
it.
someone stop putting 50 cents in Pro Golf Critic? He's angry about he's angry. Right. If you keep going, we're never going to get a show in.
They drive me crazy.
They drive
me crazy.
You've mentioned it at least 3 million times in the last year and a half of this podcast. I agree with you. But what I want to point out, and we know I love LIV. LIV's got to get its house in order as much as the PGA Tour do. Now, I'm going to do a sermon later.
Yeah, PGA Tour has a 60-year head start, though. FYI,
yeah,
but
well,
continue.
I don't care. That's like comparing yourself to your neighbours who they've been in the house 3 years long, their garden's still shit. Doesn't matter if their garden's shit. If your garden's shit, who cares? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, just because they've been there longer, like, it doesn't matter. Like, I don't care.
It does matter. It does matter.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. I don't judge myself by other people's standards. I judge myself by my standards. And if someone else has been in a position longer or whatever, and they've not done better, I don't care. It's about me.
Yeah, but if some of your neighbors have been constantly trampling on your garden, like unfettered for 3 years, like your garden's not going to be in order.
But you've now got you've now got the money, you've now got the skill, you've now got the ability to put the fences up and make your garden as you want it to be. So make your garden want it to be. So my point is on this, right? I'm going to do a sermon later on Greg and the truth about Greg. Yeah. And the truth is he's incredible and was the right person to do it. And that Scott coming in is going to be a fantastic replacement. If that is the name
Scott
of the movie.
Well,
yeah, if that is a replacement. Well, if that is a placement, based on what he's done in the past and what he's done what he's done in the UK, you guys don't see what he has. You guys can't see what he's done in the UK in the entertainment industry. Basically, what he runs Alton Towers, he runs Legoland, he runs all of our versions of your Disney and your Busch Gardens, and he runs all of that. And they're incredible. They're profit-making machines. They're fantastic. They're institutional parts of the fabric of British sort of society for like holiday making and entertainment. Like he is in charge of, I think it's 3 of the 4 largest in the UK. So he's done an incredible job with that. So I'll talk more about that later, but that's not for now. But what I want to talk about is that we don't know yet the field for the LIV qualifying event. Now
and we're recording this on Sunday. The Sunday
we're recording on Sunday, and we should know that now. And I know that Monday Q. A case of the golf. Ryan, that's it. Ryan's put out like a list that he's been given some details of, and now it's not exactly a who's who from the qualifying world. Are there more names to be added? Well, last year I just had a look. There were 68 people tried to qualify last year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22 this year. On the list so far.
Yeah, and let's be honest, like his list is very skewed towards US based players. There's going to be a lot of Asian tour players that are not on his list. And I said this,
but why don't we have that list? Like, why don't we have that name?
No, I agree, because I think part of it is there are a few, they've been waiting on a few players that have not yet committed. And I think just like with anything, they have a priority list. It is getting really late in the game here. So like they needed to sort of have this like a week before at most. Like last year, it was like they released the list a little over a week prior to the event.
I've got no issue if John Catlin wasn't on it and Hudson Swafford and Brendan Grace and whoever else had the potential to potentially win the International Series Order of Merit. Like I've got Ben Campbell's not on this list. I'm guessing Ben Campbell is going to add himself to that list. Yeah. So I can have no issue with 3 or 4 players, but without being disrespectful, there are maybe 10 Americans, 20 Europeans, and 30 Asian players that know they couldn't have won that international series. So is it a case of they're not going to compete in this qualifying event? Or a case of
they're going to compete. They are going to compete.
But then,
guys,
why don't we know the list?
Yeah, have the names. Yeah.
Well, no, I agree. Like we should have the full list by now for sure. But like we're going to have guys like I think Eugenio just pulled out of the promotions event. I think I heard that from someone.
So now I've not spoken to Eugenio. I haven't tried to because, as you know, I get on really well with him.
Yeah, of course. Same.
I don't want to invade at the minute and look like I'm trying to get a story. A couple of people have done. That's their choice, and I don't mean it in a bad way. In case it comes about, I don't mean that in a bad way at all. Like, I think a couple of people have got it, the information through a conversation. Now that information's out there, I don't want to dive in. Now it's already out there, pressing for more. But the information that was given was that he's withdrawn, he's WD'd from the qualifying event because he wants to be wanted, and he's going to explore other pathways and other professional tour options.
Yeah.
It's very sad. He obviously didn't quite fit in the world of LIV, and
I wouldn't say it's sad though. I really would.
No. I mean, it's sad when someone doesn't want you. He's got 1 year left, and no one wants him. And that's
his contract's up. His contract's up.
Yeah. Sorry, so. He when he left, he wasn't in the relegation zone, so a team could have had him if they wanted to keep him.
Yeah, for sure.
And I just think sometimes that not everyone is meant to play in a team. Sometimes you're meant to plow your furrow on your own.
Yes. No, I completely agree. Like, I think the other thing is, like, you know, look, he's been on LIV for 3 seasons. He's made, I saw the other day, it's something like $18 to $20 million over these 3. I think it's actually more, including his guarantee, the bonus that he got. So, like, look, he's financially independent now. He can do whatever he wants. If he wants to try to make it on the PGA Tour now, he certainly can. I think he's gonna do the European Tour route. Makes a ton of sense to me. That's kind of where I always thought, like, you know, a lot of these guys, if they don't, whatever, they get relegated or they're not signed, like, you know, Bernd Wiesberger last year, like he got his status back on the European Tour, and it made perfect sense for him because he's a European, and like that's a great pathway for him. So, like, I think Eugenio is going to probably follow the same thing. I've also heard that if he wants to go the PGA Tour route, he may get some sponsor invites and such, which we'll see how that pans out. Maybe he goes the Corn Ferry route. Luckily for him, he has a huge advantage now on any other players that are around his age. He is way more financially independent than any of his contemporaries, which is part of the reason why LIV is so appealing to the younger players.
He's won 13 million on LIV.
Or 13, yeah. Plus his signing bonus is probably like 20 million. Yeah.
Yes, he's won 13 million on LIV. I don't know if that included his signing bonus. I just don't know that. But he's won 13 million on LIV, and he's also won money on the International Series. He's got between 18 and 22 million. So he's got financial independence. He can go work on what he wants to work on, how he wants to work on it. And I wish him best luck. But look, that leads back then, Red. And you said before we started that you've been trying to track which players are where and what's happening. But look, we are sat here today with a few teams where we don't know exactly who's in what team. For example, the 4 aces, we know it's DJ, Reed, and Peters. But is Howard Varner going to stay in that team? PP's contract's expired. Is anyone going to pick up PP again? We've got teams like the Range Goats, so Bubba, Peter Uline, Wolf, and what everyone thought was going to be Tony. Is that going to be the rumored Adam Scott going into that team? Is Jose Ballesta the young Spanish amateur going to go and join the Fireballs? What's happening with the Ironheads? The Ironheads, we've had a couple of big teases. Like the Ironheads are teased yesterday with some silhouettes. By the way, don't try and guess what the silhouettes. Those silhouettes, I've double checked off an old poster. Those silhouettes are Vincent haircut with a cap on, Danny Lee and Jinky. They are the same. So don't go off the silhouettes. And then another one today with some dominoes falling. I can't believe Ironheads are giving it the big. Here's a big reveal. Here's some dominoes, just to bring back the same people.
No.
What about AK? Everyone said that AK's can join a team. Is he going to go and join his mate DJ, who will sponsor by extracurricular? Is he going to go and join the Ironheads, who've obviously got a space? there's been lots of talk about Adam Scott. Does Adam Scott create some Australasia team and go and join the Ironheads? Because obviously Jonesy's coming back to the Rippers. There's so much to be discussed, and then we've got the one that I've never put out. I've never put it out publicly because I just can't be bothered. I get shot. The one thing that I keep hearing, and I heard loads of, and that everyone said made sense, was the idea of there being a young Scandi team. Victor, Højgaard, and somebody else.
Yeah. We wanted that last year with the rumors we were hearing. But yeah, there's definitely some answers. Hopefully we get some. And again, like it starts with who's going to be in the promotions event and who gets that spot and where that's going to align. Another thing is there another team or not? You know, we've heard that could be rumored and possibly. And then another one you mentioned is wild cards like AK. Are they going to filter into teams? Hudson, he's been relegated, but he is rumored to be in the promotions event. If he gets through, what happens to him? And actually along the same thing you were talking about with Eugenio, you know, we don't know if Eugenio even has a guaranteed pathway back to go to the tour. He might have to serve some imaginary suspension, though he was never a member of the PGA Tour, before he's even allowed to go. So
he can probably go and join the DP World Tour based on victories and a few other things and serve a suspension on the PGA Tour at the same time.
Yeah, they seem to be open to that. I think that's the one good thing that the European Tour has done is they're opening that door for anybody to come back, like we saw with Byrne, which, I mean, he is a DP World Tour player through and through. Like, he belongs over there if he's not going to be on LIV. So it's great to see that they were allowed to do that, and I would expect the same for Eugenio. And who
Laurie
knows?
Canner too. Laurie Canner is the same thing.
And I think Laurie ran into the same problem. I don't know. Technically, he might even have to serve a suspension if he wanted to go to the tour. I'm not sure if he's allowed to school. You know, it's so crazy. Like, again, like to Jay's point and to yours at the same time, what answers we don't have from LIV, we're still not getting direct answers from the PGA Tour about what their decisions are on any of these issues too. So again, it's just like we're left in this massive gray area. It's getting old quickly. I would guess that LIV would have these answers ready before the tour would, because the tour wouldn't even, you know, it doesn't really care anyways. Like, and that's where I draw the line is like, I think LIV is definitely more active in answering these questions, getting them out for people to absorb. But
yeah, and you know what? I think it's all related. That's the thing. Like, I mean, it all goes back to this deal. And I've gone on record to say, look, if they don't have a deal by the end of the year, like I've already given the recommendation that the PIF just needs to abandon it, focus on the European Tour, focus on that sort of partnership. It makes a ton of sense. It's always made the most amount of sense to like all of us that like LIV and the Asian Tour and the European Tour need to align and be sort of the global tour, because the PGA Tour, there's too much bureaucracy, there's too much nonsense, there's too much skullduggery, all that stuff that we've been talking about for 2 years.
A proper world tour with a European swing and an Asian swing, touched down a little bit in South Africa, touched down a little bit in Australia for a couple of events. Yeah, but yeah, it's always made sense.
Yeah, and the schedule for 2025 is already aligning that way anyway, where LIV is kicking off in the Middle East, which is exactly when the European Tour has their Middle East swing. They're going to Dubai, they're going to Bahrain, which is apparently going to be where Sergio Garcia makes his long-awaited return to the European Tour next year. And
my friend played that. My friends played that course. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day when I was in London. He said, I just got back from Bahrain. He said, played golf there. I was like, did you? I said, where? And I said, mate, that's a lovely. He said, so yeah. I said, what did you shoot? You went 112.
Yeah. I'm like if the wind kicks up, yeah.
I'm like, he's not a bad golfer. He's not great. He plays like 17, 18. I said, what tees you off? He went, about 6,300. I went, no. He said, played about 8,000.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it can. It certainly can. And Bahrain probably doesn't have that many golf courses. It probably has one or two. So, yeah, so like I think that, and then Singapore, the Singapore event on the European Tour aligns with the Singapore event, and Hong Kong on LIV. All of that like speaks to me that like there's already some alignment taking place. And now it's just up to the PGA Tour if they're going to allow the PIF investment, which from everything that I've heard should have been done a while ago. So I still don't really know exactly what the holdup is. I have my own theories on that we've talked about, but they need to either it's like, look, if it either happens in December or it doesn't happen at all. I'm basically at that point now.
We're
We
waiting
can't
for
keep
shoes.
dragging this out.
Yeah, we're waiting for shoes to fall, and quite frankly, at the minute, it looks to be LIV have got to get their qualifying event done.
Yeah.
And once that qualifying event's done, we know that's going to be one player, whoever that player is, and then they're going to have to go and fit into a team.
They're not going to a team. I confirm that the winner of the promotions event's going to be a wild card. So just FYI.
Right. Is that 100%?
100%. Yes.
Right.
Confirmed.
Okay. Because that was something I'd not been made aware of that. That does make it slightly different. And obviously we got also there's a couple of names missing out that list from Ryan. Like I know having spoken to Wade that Wade was gonna go into qualifying event, but then he actually did post today on Instagram that that's his season done. What's it say? Let me just check what Wade said.
Maybe with official events or
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, look, Wade is
yeah.
I love Wade.
Hang on. So Wade Ormsby, 2024 season done, plus LIV event, promotions event next week. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Well, because I was going to
say,
say,
if he
too,
wasn't in it.
we've heard a little bit of rumblings of possibly a fifth player. I don't think that's necessarily true.
Happening.
And I don't think that's going to happen.
It's not happening.
Wade should be that fifth player for the Ripper, as far as I'm concerned. I know there's probably some more youth talent, but, he is a consummate professional, always ready to go, and he served that role really well last year as being the reserve player. And
yeah, like I think from what I've heard from various parts of the world, that if Wade doesn't qualify, he will be back as the reserve player, and those that do watch the broadcast more will see that in the last 3 to 4 events, Wade actually was in the broadcast a little bit more, doing a tiny bit more on the range. And look, I think it's a very natural place for him to be. He's a fantastic player, but he's maybe not where he wants to be, the very top of his game, although I think he's still world class. He obviously is world class. If he isn't qualifying for the event, another year as a reserve. I think I looked and he played 7 rounds or 8 rounds as a reserve. So it wasn't like he didn't play at all. And doing some work on the range and doing some work supporting the broadcast isn't a bad gig for him. And playing international series.
And look, let's be honest. Like Wade Ormsby's not getting any younger. Like he's about the same age as I am, and I'm not exactly at my sort of peak skills. So I mean, it just is what it is. And like eventually, we all have to have another plan. Like Pat Perez doesn't look like he's going to be back at all on LIV next year. I guess you just never know. Like I mean, all these teams kind of have their priority lists. And I know the Aces still have sort of they got to figure out the last. Wade's
spot. Wade's 45 in March.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, he's not young. I mean, he's definitely at the age where most players outside of Phil Mickelson and guys of that ilk are sort of on the downside. So and that's not a knock. It's just it is what it is. So. So I mean, look, I think everybody kind of has to have their own plan. I know he's got his own sort of plan post golf, and so we'll have to see. But yeah, there is going to be a lot of players in the promotions event that we know that have been reserves on LIV previously, that have been around the LIV universe, around the Asian Tour, playing in the international series. Like I honestly expect to see a huge contingent of players that played in the Saudi International. Shout out Waco for winning that. There's going to be a ton of those guys that are going to be in the promotions event. There's no question about it.
So then we look at the teams, and I know there's been a lot of chatter about Thomas Dietrich coming over and joining the cliques. Are we confident with this?
I had him slotted into another team, so not necessarily the cliques. No, but again, this is the as Stephen A. Smith likes to say, this is fluid. Like, this is so fluid. Things can change. Like, I think Thomas Dietrich is going to be on LIV next year. If I had to put money on it, I think he's going to be on Legion. If I had to guess, sort of a strong, educated guess. But I think that I would bet, I'm like 95% sure Thomas Dietrich is going to be on LIV. Again, it's not signed. They got to sign the deal. We've seen these things fall apart before. I've gotten to the point where I don't even want to put out any names until these guys are signed, because I feel like there's this pattern of a name gets out there, the PGA Tour gets wind of it. They try to do everything they can to sort of keep that player, and it's just it's a nightmare. So
Yeah,
it is what it is. So
it seems like the rumors kind of add more pressure to the whole process that maybe would be best served like not. But
except I don't think they're going to do a ton to like keep a guy like Thomas Dietrich. Thomas Dietrich is I see him as a European global player. He is not an American player, even though he played college at Illinois. But he's like he fits the LIV brand. His best friend Thomas Peters is on LIV. I know they've had a lot of discussions. He was playing with Adrian Moronk, both members at the Els Club in Dubai. It's a lot of golfers that are a member of the Els Club in Dubai, including a few other players that we've linked to LIV in the past. So these conversations are ongoing. It's all a matter of if they're able to work out a deal. And again, the money's not quite there the way that it has been in the past. So, and part of that is because this deal isn't done yet. So, and if the deal doesn't get done, I have a feeling that $1 billion that the PIF was going to invest in the PGA Tour is going to get redirected. And that's what I want to see at this point.
Yeah. Well, and I would add to that too is a lot of what we're seeing now with the money not being as much is the likelihood of these European Tour players being the ones who get picked up simply because of location wise, where obviously LIV has made the move to be much more Asian heavy this year, not as many American events. So obviously, like when you do look like at guys like Tony, who, maybe his new offer is several million below what it was previously. Now he's got one less event in the Northern American hemisphere, whatever that means. If I'm not sure, we still don't have any word on if we're thinking Mexico at all. Is that kind of just totally washed away?
Like
yeah.
No, it seems like Mexico City's on the map, but
okay.
Hasn't been confirmed yet. But yeah, they were definitely not going back to Mayakoba, and it sounded like Mexico City was going to be on the.
Okay. So, but still, there's questions around where the locations are, and it's definitely leaning like it's going to be more international based, Asia, Europe. So if you're someone who lives in Dubai, maybe Sweden, I think that would be something you'd consider more heavily. So, yeah, it makes sense that we're seeing some of these American guys kind of shrivel up at the idea, especially Tony, who travels with 6 people usually. So.
Yeah. So, and then we got just very quickly, and we don't want to speak ill of anyone and what's happening, but Brendan Grace hasn't been in the Stingers promotional material. Right. We know he's playing in the qualifying event this week. The Stingers, if they had have wanted, could have done what they've done with Matt Jones and said, this player's playing, he's our player, he's playing, Bubba who's playing is coming back. So Stingers could have made a business case for him and brought him back in. Now, they might still do.
Still can.
They might. They still can, time. But doesn't it make the case for it weaker if he goes to the qualifying event and finishes 17th? Do you know what I mean? Like, go to the qualifying event and doesn't finish top 3 or 4, then the case for bringing him back isn't as strong. And you said about the qualifying event player is going to be a wild card. What if the qualifying player is Brendan Grace? Then that won't be a wild card.
Yeah, I think he would be the exception. Like, the only exceptions that I could see are guys that are currently on teams, like going back to whatever team.
But interestingly, like John Catlin played for Legion, and it was definitely a step up from the Vincent brothers. And that's not been horrible to Kieran and Scott, but he has played better than them, and
for sure.
Yeah, so. There's something that said to me, if John Catlin qualified, could he just slot into Legion? Because if John Catlin is your worst player, that ain't a bad worst player to have, because John Catlin over a season is going to finish sort of 34, 35, 36 maybe. I'll take that as if that's my fourth player.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying for sure, except I know the guys that Jon Rahm has on his list are better than John Catlin. No offense to John Catlin. I think that John Catlin is a world-class player, except I think that Jon Rahm has his own plan for his team. He's already talked about it a little bit, trying to find a Callaway player to sort of slot in because he's got a lot of branding going on with Callaway and Travis Matthew, all that other stuff. And I think that he's targeting a European player because also he's got this deal with Open Bank and Santander, who he's very, very, very connected to, which is primarily a European bank. So I think that he's targeting a European Tour type player. Maybe they're not playing on the European Tour now, but they're playing on the PGA Tour, but they're ethnically European as far as like where they country of origin. So I think that's where he's gonna go. And I don't think John Catlin fits on that a particular team. I think that he's probably lower on the priority list. I think he said he had 6 or 7 players he was targeting. If like the top 5 fall through, I think probably Catlin is sort of the other one there. And I don't know, maybe John Catlin, maybe he finds a spot, but I think that he's going to do everything he can to sort of win that promotions event, and he will be a wild card next year.
Yeah, unfortunately, not playing the best. Yeah, he is. He's just not playing his best golf right now, as we saw with him kind of stumbling into the last few events there. So, which I could go on for a bit, but I think there does need to be a little bit of change in how they're doing that. Maybe adjusting some of the points, or maybe a divisor in some way, or allocating more points to some of those other events that are played all year round. Because I would like to see it become an actual promotional spot that's more open up to a new face. Granted,
you mean for the international series?
Yeah, for the international series. Granted, congrats to Waco. I mean, it's awesome. Like, he came out there and won it, but to do like the Rory McIlroy, I'd probably call it, where he shows up for the last 2 events and they're the most thing, and all of a sudden he has the DP World Tour, ranking of the year. It's like,
yeah, he only played 2 events.
That's crazy. Where'd you even come from, man? I mean, so, but, that aside,
he's also that good. That good. So, yeah.
So John aside, and shout out Ben Campbell too. Congrats on his season. I wish he'd done a little better. But going back to the Grace issue, I think I would really like to see it that he doesn't come back. And I like him too. I think he's still got some halfway decent golf left, but I know he's struggled a little bit of injuries. He's getting old. And it seems to me that there's too much good South African talent right now, young talent, that we can just let this go with that being the case.
And and for me,
example is Pot Guider that we just saw this weekend.
Pot Guider or Crystal Lamprecht.
Yeah.
Pick either of those. Yeah. Like, you're talking 2 world-class kids. 2 world-class kids. I say kids, not being disrespectful. I'm 42 and 42 in 2 weeks.
They're in their early 20s.
In 2 weeks, boys. What am I doing? 42 in 2 weeks. Christ.
They still count as kids. Anybody under 25, it's okay calling them a kid still.
Yeah,
but
I call them kids. And then even if you didn't want to go super young, even guys like Eric Van Rooyen, who, he doesn't have his best golf right now, but I would still consider him possibly being a player that would be someone you should.
I'd pick
like a Tristan Lawrence.
Tristan Lawrence. Yeah.
I like him too. Yeah.
There's just a lot of South African talent, is all I have to say, and I think it would be a very I know we've talked about this a little bit before. We don't know exactly how these business cases are made, but I know that someone from the LIV organization is involved in the board meeting or however the vote is. And for me, if I'm the league, it's a necessary step to kind of move on from him.
Which is why, for me, at the moment, I get Cam Smith being super loyal. Matt Jones is a good friend of his. Matt Jones is a good golfer. But I do think, and we know from comments that have been made by LIV players and league, that there have been Australians who've made an interest known in joining LIV. Now, I think, as you said, Red, with members of LIV board being in these meetings, I think that if Ripper GC hadn't done so well and won the championship, then there would be the Matt Jones issue might have been forced differently. But I think he'd do very well to force them not to stop him playing and to make the captain take a different player, having had the season they had. I think that, as they say in American football, winning cures all ills. It really does. It's what have you done for me lately? That's the league.
Yep. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, and I think that's where we're getting to on LIV. I just think that there's, again, things have been in a holding pattern, and that's like what I'm most excited about the future, is that we need to get to this point of stasis where we finally know what the future is. Like, we've got a new CEO, we've got all these things lining up. We've finally figured out the situation with the PGA Tour and the European Tour. Now we can finally hit the gas and sort of really see what we can do here and start building culture to these teams in the league and all that. Because that's just, there's obviously been a lot of headwinds. There's been a lot of stuff that we talked about for 2 years. And I'm looking forward to a time in the near future, very near future, that this is all behind us and we could sort of look to the future. Because like, as much as I like the drama and I love seeing the PGA Tour stands sort of squirm at like every time there's a new rumor about a new player going over, at some point we just have to get to the point where these teams are fully formed and like we can finally have a fully formed league, and that league can sort of push things into the future and figure out exactly what it's going to look like.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would also add that. Well, I would add too that maybe it's on Liv's. It's time for Liv to kind of just do things on their terms and kind of accept that if some of these players aren't coming over, they're going to build their own through the process of getting youth and also then continuing to kind of court this European player that we know still works. I mean, obviously the design of Liv was never to become the European Tour 2.0, but in reality, it can easily do that and kind of use that to kind of still cement itself and move forward, and not have this big back and forth that we're still kind of continuing. Because I think it does do an injustice to what the league's trying to accomplish with this current time being so wishy-washy and gray. It would be it'd be much more enjoyable with an open system and, maybe even, we've talked before, like starting to clear up what the contracts look like and adding in, the jokes have already been made that Thomas Peters got traded for nothing, where we kind of know that there was cash involved in that, where as far as, they're not having to pay him that much. They can sign a younger player and keep this youth. It seemed to be what Bubba doesn't really mind doing that. Like that's what we saw from him doing for the last year with the trades he made. So it's kind of in consideration. Yeah, Bubba has built an image on youth and fun and the brand that is the GOATs. He's not so concerned with having this, star player on his team right now. And I think that's a bit of part of what was happening. I think he's also making room, like we said, for that possibly to happen. But it would be it would add a little bit more than if it was more clear. And I think we've talked about that for some time, and hopefully that can be something we see in the next couple of years. So,
yeah, I think that's definitely coming for sure. But like I said, like it's just a process, and I've been sort of leaning into and telling every LIV fan that messages me, just like trust the process at this point. Like we're everything's going to be fine. Everything's going to work out long term. It's worked out really well so far, and the rest is going to sort itself out soon.
Yeah, and I think there's going to be some great players coming across. I just want to touch on something before we come back to LIV. As of right now, Scottie's just won that event. Now, as Scottie's 2024 is in the books, guys. Christ,
yeah, I'm going to go on mute because I'm not going to talk about Scottie Scheffler any more than I already have. Right. I'm done with him. I'm done with Scottie Scheffler. I'm done with everything on the PGA Tour.
All right,
I'm just going to abstain from this conversation.
Fine. 21 events, Red.
Mm-hmm.
9 wins, 9 top 10s, and 3 other results. It's just insane.
It is. I mean, and the most impressive thing is he's doing it through putting changes, putting struggles, putting grip change, which, I didn't really get to watch a lot. I wasn't that interested in watching the Hero. For what it's worth, like, I think it's great that they put this together, and it's a halfway decent tournament, but just didn't really draw my attention. And it seemed to be working though. I mean, you 25 under any golf course, that's still impressive.
And a good showing from a guy I really like, and I like the spunk and I like the attitude of him. I like Tom Kim. He's a player I'd love to see on LIV. He's a player that would be great to see. Just because I like the way he is, like his firiness. I think he'd be really good and in the Ironheads alongside Kevin Na and his guys. Now, Jay, if you're not going to speak about Scottie Scheffler, you can't also jump in on this one. Every so often, I like Justin Thomas. I like watching Justin Thomas play. I think he's a good golfer. It does seem like the PGA Tour and the PGA Tour media was desperate for Justin Thomas to do well this week. Like sometimes you get these feelings like they're just trying to push an athlete, like they're trying to the LeVar Ball with the Ball family. Like he used the phrase when he got his boy signed to the Lakers. I'm going to speak it into existence.
Yeah,
I love that phrase.
You
went away for Scottie Scheffler.
No, because the two things relate. The two things relate. And we have to be honest about the PGA Tour and what it's become. A lot of the alpha males that would like challenge Scottie are like not there anymore. Let's just call it what it is. Even someone like Rory, not in the hero. Like you look at this list of guys in the hero, the golf media, of course they want some of these guys to like step it up because the PGA Tour is not interested. It was already getting to the point where it's not that interesting. It is really not that interesting if Scottie Scheffler is the only guy winning big tournaments on the PGA Tour. And that's unfortunately exactly where we're at. This is like a worst case scenario for the PGA Tour. You have this like great player, this great talent that's winning everything, whose personality, let's be honest, is not exactly the most dynamic. He's not Bryson. He's not Rory. He's not Tiger. He's not any of these guys that can sort of elevate the entire tour. It'll be interesting to see if that's something he's able to mature into. I don't think that's something he's going to mature into, though. I think who he is now is who he's going to be, which is fine. Except I just don't think that he alone through his play can elevate the PGA Tour. And I think the more he wins, the lesser the PGA Tour becomes. That's like where we're at now.
I think it's a huge problem for a lot of different reasons. Obviously, not allowing other names to kind of elevate themselves and make a name for themselves because they're being overshadowed by having, they're lucky to get second or third when Scottie's in the field. And then another huge thing too is if Scottie keeps on this tear, he's going to kind of tank the betting markets, and you take that away, it's a huge problem for the tour. I mean, I have people who I'm familiar with on Twitter commenting like, I guess I'm not going to bet on golf anymore. And to, put that with how much golf you're watching in a lot of these different aspects, I mean, it's going to be an issue unless he's so clutch that you're always going to bet on him and it's Scottie against the field. Other markets become, one that's popular now and becoming more popular is without Scottie is, how you bet. And because Scottie's going to win, so you now bet who's going to come in second. But it impacts the interest you have in these events when, somebody's so dominant. And I think he doesn't, to Jay's point too, I don't think he carries the same swag and joie de vivre that Tiger had when he was at his A game. So the thing
is, Scottie's a shucks good old boy, isn't he? He's religious. Yeah. He's very faithful to his wife and his new child.
I don't want to jinx relationships. It's one of those things. But
look, what I'm saying is they seem to have a very wholesome relationship. Seem very happy. He's got the new child. Everything seems great, and it seems that way. And hopefully it is that way. But he seems to play his golf and leave. Whereas Tiger did have that swagger about him. He had that look about him. Look, it's that people compared Tiger and MJ for a reason. And I don't mean Michael Jackson, I mean Michael Jordan. People compared Jordan and Tiger for a reason. And that's because they both had that steel, that grit, that look about them. like people. I remember ages ago, someone was saying about how they're comparing Phil Ivey to Tiger Woods. Phil Ivey, the famous poker player, because Phil Ivey had that steel about him. He had that edge about him in a different way. Like in poker,
Lewis Hamilton.
Lewis
Hamilton and
more so Michael Schumacher, for those that are old enough to remember Michael Schumacher. But you can look at players. You've got what I call like the talented players in different sports that had a bit more about them in a different way. Like you can.
Yeah, they had an identity. I think it's identity.
But then the identity has to be something different. So you can look at poker and you've got Daniel Negreanu, got a very different identity. Like he's got personality. Phil, different identity and personality. Alongside Phil, you could have someone like Larry Bird, or do you mean you can put in someone whatever else it might be, Magic Johnson. Yeah. But Scottie doesn't fit into any of those. I really like Scottie. He's a nice guy, and I think he speaks quite well, but he doesn't have that charisma. What the kids call it, Riz. Oh, I'm not doing that. I'm 42. But
I've already gone through this with a bunch of people. He's not. He doesn't have star quality, and there's nothing that anybody can say that's going to change it.
He has star quality as a player, but not the other elements, because on the course is one element of it.
He's a great player. He can very well turn into a historically great player. He's a star golfer. That is completely different than what we're talking about. Having star quality, having this identity that transcends the sport, that can elevate the tour and elevate the sport. It's just not something that he has, and it's not something that he's ever going to have. I mean, that's totally fine. Like, I don't have any problem with Scottie Scheffler. I've said this a million times, but it's like, if that is your main guy, your tour is not gonna reach its potential. That's just how it is, and it's totally fine. But it's like I see a lot of these players, like you talk about Scottie Scheffler in the media, and it's like they're already conceding that like he's the best player, and it's like I want guys that are going to be like, no, I think I can beat him on a regular basis, and like I'm going to do everything that I can to beat his ass. Yeah, and I haven't heard anybody say that. There's nobody on the PGA Tour saying that.
We'll hear it from Bryson and Brooks.
Exactly. With the showdown coming up, absolutely, absolutely.
There's no way they're going to step in.
Also, the showdown. Look, don't get me started on how difficult that is to view in the UK.
Well, yeah, the timing. Starting pretty late.
The time shit. It's 11 o'clock at night. It tees off, right?
Okay. So that's gonna be great for West Coast, but
But also on top of it teeing off at 11 o'clock, it's a fucking school night, isn't it? It's a work day.
It is.
Also, it's on TNT Sports.
Yeah.
So
TNT's got a lot. Well, I mean, look, TNT is.
We're not in the UK. How do I even get TNT Sports? For our
I think it's going to be on
viewers,
streaming. Yeah, I think it's going to be on streaming for you guys too. I think it's HBO Max. I'm almost positive. Yeah.
No, we don't have HBO Max. Stop naming these random channels.
You're not.
Maybe YouTube.
Maybe
YouTube. Yeah, I don't know.
HBO Max. No.
I'll start a live or something and just stream it.
You're gonna be like Antonio Brown.
Antonio Brown did. Yeah. For Netflix.
How do I watch
Jake Paul fight?
Yeah.
the showdown?
Maybe it's on Bleacher Report or something. Yeah.
We don't have. Stop saying random American shit that we don't have. Maybe it's on Bleacher Report. Do you think we have Bleacher Report? We don't have bleachers. We have stands and stadiums.
Look, I can't keep up with like all these 200 other countries.
The showdown will be broadcast on the TNT Sports in the UK. Live streaming of TNT Sports available via the Discovery Plus app. So it's not even on TNT Sports. We've got to get Discovery.
Discovery Plus. Yeah.
What is Discovery Plus?
Discovery Plus. It's just another streaming service too.
Is that Disney? Is that Disney?
No,
so I've got Disney. Disney's got Discovery Channel.
No, I thought they were going to get acquired by somebody, but I don't know. It might be all different over there.
Is Discovery Plus? This is great for the listeners, but if they're English, they're hopefully enjoying it.
They probably are. What I was going to add though too is, so we're talking about how things are streamed or who's covering what. I think it's very interesting, and I'm sure you were going to do this, but the Creator Council and what the PGA Tour is talking about through that, and then also I find it very funny that Scratch Golf wasn't listed, when we're now seeing the first iteration of what Scratch is now intending to do with being a PGA Tour, basically,
vehicle.
I mean, I don't know what to call it other than state-run media. Like, it's just, and I mean, it was that already, but now it's using voices that was, independent in Dan Rappaport, and his initial postings were like, "Oh, look, I can record golf swings." Now I think that's going to go to the same. People who are in the council are going to be allowed to do that too. So we'll see NLU if they're going to host at Pebble Beach again this year. They're going to actually be on the range instead of that's them telling people, "Oh, we can't show them hitting shots right now. It's not in the." So like this whole,
I know.
Like that whole thing is crazy. And hopefully it's dead now, and I actually support it in ways because I think like the tour kind of opening themselves up is what's needed in the sport, but it's also it's wild that like it took them this long. It's wild that people might have to be sacrificing their autonomy a little bit. Like I don't imagine they would be. I don't think any of them would sign a deal if that were the case, but at the same time like it does bring that into question. So
well, I got shot down for the other day for asking that. Some guy wanders in and starts giving me grief about it. Like someone I thought was someone I got on with. Like it's like just what I was just like. I wasn't like you grasping at straws. You trying to like make this into something. No. My question is really simple. The PGA Tour has been controlling over vendors, over courses, and over other parts of the golf landscape. Are they also going to say, if you're part of our content creator collaboration, that you also have to be limited on who you can do work with? I'm not saying the PGA Tour can do that. Yes. I'm just asking the question. They've done it in the past. What's stopping them doing it now? I think it's a fair question to ask.
I think you're trying to wind me up right now because I'm about to go nuclear on the PGA Tour again, and I'm trying.
No one wants
It's like
that.
Mrs. PGC has to hold me back. She just sent me a text like, "Don't get too loud."
Just work out how I can watch the Discovery Plus app in the UK.
Scratch golf, maybe. No.
Yeah, maybe.
And that's actually another thing is I think where we've talked a little bit, like we have yet to hear LIV tell us really what's going on with the coverage for next season.
Yeah, here in the United States. Yeah.
Luckily,
we have time. Like there is like 2 months before there's a LIV event. So it's like we're not like in a huge rush.
For sure.
I mean, I'd like to know sooner than later too, just so that we can start, getting prepared for it. But
my biggest thing too
is we'll get that information when we get it.
Oh, so, interesting. They've just released a picture of Scottie Scheffler's bag. He's using some Strixon clubs in there as well as his TaylorMades.
That is weird.
Really?
Because they have pretty complete deals usually.
Well, he's definitely not. He's using a Strixon 4-iron. Unless that picture is not of his bag.
Just one club, then that's kind of a one-off. But
yeah, so
but usually they don't like anybody meddling in their stuff. I mean, they'll go to extremes to get them to actually switch to the newer stuff. Basically,
that was one of my favorite. That was one of my favorite things. One of my favorite things that happened in the world of golf was obviously a lot of TaylorMade golf. Nearly every single one of them went to the QI10, didn't they? This last year,
yeah.
But they really didn't all go to the Stealth, did they? It was amazing how many players stayed with that Sim Max.
Stay with the Sims. Even some M2s.
Yeah, it was.
And just.
But they've all now gone to that QI10. But it was very interesting, that Stealth really and that Stealth 2. It really seemed to die a death. It does happen in clubs.
Yeah, just because I think year to year, like I've gotten on these equipment companies for trying to flood the market every year, which is part of the reason why I like Ping so much. Like I'm starting to like Ping because they don't release. They're on 2-year cycles.
Every 2 years, yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like what TaylorMade and Callaway do, like they up it with like one release and then like the next one isn't quite as good.
And Ping also layer that across the wedges.
Yeah.
So this year will be irons and drivers, and then next year will be a wedge range.
I saw Waco is playing the new
looks lovely.
The new 440 looks really good.
I can't wait to go and try that out in a couple of weeks' time.
Same. Just to touch on Scottie's bag, because people are gonna give us grief about it. I did verify he's actually been playing these Strixon long irons all year. He did a what's in the bag earlier in the year. First couple tournaments that he won, he's been playing with 3 and 4 irons in the ZU 85s. So yeah. So he's had it in the bag for a while. It's a great driving iron for sure. Yeah. Except every other club that he has, from the driver to the putter, is all is all telling. Although he is playing Vokey wedges, which is always interesting. Yeah, but he's obviously got that spider putter that he put in the bag after Riviera last year.
Look, it is time to draw this to a close. I think that we will know in the next 3 to 4 days a lot more.
Let's hope so.
I have said, and could there be a player that's just played in Bermuda that's coming over to LIV? There
But
could
Bahamas,
be.
don't.
Bahamas,
People
sorry.
are going to give me a hard
Sorry.
time about that. Then.
In the Bahamas, same difference. It's all a triangle. Could there be a player playing there that stopped release? Who knows? I don't know. But
No, I think that there's three. I think that there's three names there that are possibilities. Yeah.
I do like the idea, though, Jay and Red, and you and Red, we discussed this earlier, of having it being LIV signing day. So, like the anniversary of when John Rahm was released, that another player is released every single December 7th. A big player is released. Yeah. I love the idea of doing that.
That's what I thought Finau was going to be. I thought that we were setting up for the next December 7th. It was going to be like an annual thing. I thought Finau was going to be the one. Obviously, this December 7th is sort of come and gone here. Except, like I said, I think there's 3 players in the Hero that, like, it would have been 4 with Finau that have strong links to LIV. I don't think that that's changed. And it could just be a situation where they're
outside of Tom Kim, which 2?
So I'd say obviously Tom Kim, and then there's been strong rumblings about Sam Burns.
Yeah,
Sam Burns is really interesting. I mean, I'm indifferent to Sam Burns. If he comes, great, but like I said, I'm perfectly fine with the roster as it is. Just keep adding a few younger players, or just to add to the depth. I'm totally fine with it. And then the other one that's been, I don't believe this, but I know he's had an offer previously, is Nick Dunlap. I think that he's been linked to a couple teams. I don't really think that's going to happen at all. However, I know for a fact that he's had some discussions. And I think he even had an offer earlier this year. So
yeah, I would add Pavon, honestly. I maybe even over Nick, but I don't. That's just conjecture. But
yeah,
you know,
I haven't heard one way or the other.
Yeah, French and just the European tour connection. I keep harping on this, but I think that it just makes the most sense for those guys, and hopefully the Americans can come when that works out. But there's not a ton of American names that I think are considering it or in the consideration, which is unfortunate. But I think some younger ones are, and that'll be interesting how that plays out too. So, but yeah, I also just wanted to add, I think they need to lean into, and I'd love to see them have Letterman jackets like every time they do this now. I think it has to. That should just be a thing. Yeah,
that's a must.
I want to see like teasing of like some guy like stitching, like getting the jacket ready, and just that having that ready on stage. It'd be great. I think they need to just lean fully in on that because it's too good. So
completely agree.
Right. Well, on that note, gents, it leaves time for only one last thing. And Red, you've heard us do this, so you must be prepared. Tomorrow's headlines today.
I could go first this time.
Oh, just good. Because you never go first. Go on.
Well, no, sometimes I do.
Pro Golf Critic, tomorrow's headlines today.
I'm never
you forget
prepared.
about it.
However, I'm prepared.
It's like the 6th time we've done it. You're never prepared.
I know, I'm prepared today. That's why I wanted to go first. So tomorrow's headlines today, Bryson and Brooks completely destroy Rory and Scottie in the showdown. Like I got wind of what the format's going to be. I think it's a really interesting format to see how it's going to be. It's going to be 6 holes of foursomes, 6 holes of 4-ball, and then 6 holes of singles.
And the singles is Bryson versus Scottie and Rory versus Brooks.
Probably, but they haven't determined that. I think it should be the other way. I don't think that's
because the US Open it should be Bryson versus.
Yeah, it's got to be. And Brooks and Scottie were actually Bryson got paired with Scottie at the Ryder Cup too. So so I can see that going either way. But yeah, like any of those matches, or maybe it's it's 3 holes one way, 3 holes the other way. That would be pretty cool too. But I think that there's way more motivation on the Bryson Brooks side to win this than there is the Rory and Scottie side. I just do. So yeah, I think that's going to be, and I'm really looking forward to it. Like, it's going to be the highlight of the month for me. Just like, I like Shadow Creek. They're going to be playing a lot of it under the lights, which is always kind of a cool element. And I think it's going to be really, really good stuff. So yeah, you may have to watch it on highlights, Ben, but you know, it's going to be fun for the American audience.
Well, as long as the American audience, okay, that's perfect.
So not to go with like any signings and like, cause I don't want to guess at anything. I'll go tomorrow's headline, which might actually be tomorrow, would be, more PGA Tour players wanted to sign up for the promotion event and were told not to. Kind of like we saw a little bit last year, some grumblings.
You two aren't ever going to make editors. Like, you could do such a snappier headline than that. More PGA Tour players wanted to sign. Right, go on, mate, have another go. Do a proper headline. Go on.
Let's go.
Read all about it.
Tour gets in the way of LIV promotion event.
Perfect. Love it.
Yeah.
Tour shuts the door is the.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
It's the first draft. It was the first.
Yeah. That wouldn't really be a headline though. That's just part of what they do. That should be like the first line on the PGA Tour's Wikipedia page. Like,
well, my headline: LIV Vikings go berserk.
Okay.
Victor, the Højgaard brothers, and either Alex Noren or Thorbjørn Olesen, whoever else it is, to make it before Danish, Norwegian, Scandi Viking team. LIV Vikings go berserk as LIV sign 4 players from the PGA Tour and European Tour to make up a Vikings team.
I like it.
I don't want / think LIV need to go throw in massive cash. But if you want to go and drop a boatload of cash, go and get Victor, go and get the Højgaard brothers, and go and get Thorbjørn Olesen, whoever you want, or Alex Noren, whoever you want, an older player, and just have an absolutely amazing team called the Vikings. Market the living shit out of that. It's going to be
great.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. I would definitely buy some merch.
Yeah,
like hats with horns and stuff.
Like, I probably wouldn't buy that, but
there'd be a top 3 branded team overnight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They
just couldn't be purple, but you have to pick another color scheme. But.
Yeah, doing the skull. Sounds good.
Bunch of Ryder Cup guys too. I mean, that's yeah.
Right.
You could throw in Ludwig. Just so I could have a team to like root against would be great. But
mate, if Ludwig Oberg come across, because I really like him, but anyway, or not getting to that, because I think you might fancy him. The way you talk about him, the way you hate him, you might actually really like him.
No, 0% chance. No, I've been off of that bandwagon for a while. I just don't think he's as good as everybody says. Like, I've gone into this enough times so that people should have an understanding of this. I just don't think Ludwig Aberg, Ober, whatever you want to call him, he's not what everybody's made him out to be. That's just how I feel. It's what it is.
What I think he hasn't got, and I think would make it change you over the year, is if you saw him put his foot on the throat when he was in good positions. And I think that, again, winning cures all ills. What have you done for me lately? Let's see if he comes out with LIV or wherever he plays, and he gets 2 or 3 early leads and actually puts his foot down and converts them, or chases down a pack and wins. I think all of a sudden you start to see a maturing player, because he's still so bloody young. Anyway, we're not doing this.
It's not that young. Not that young. It's 25. It's 25.
Well, a minute
ago,
ago,
same age as Waco, basically.
A minute ago, the 25-year-olds were kids, right?
Not in a professional golf.
You were not having it.
You can be a kid and still like be where you need to be at a certain level by the time you get to 25, 26, 27.
It's a good job. It's a good job. I love you, because you've got a complete 180 in this 25 and kids thing. Either he's a kid.
I did technically say under 25, so just if you want to be a stickler, so
okay.
but yeah. So
he's an adolescent.
He's got a long way to go. Now, if he wants to challenge Scottie Scheffler, then maybe we could have a discussion, because I haven't heard him say anything about that yet. So I need one of these guys to freaking step it up, because this is like, the PGA Tour next year is going to be completely uninteresting to me. I've already been out on the PGA Tour for 2 years. I've been tweeting about this for a while. Like, any PGA Tour fans, you get what you get. Like, it is what it is. I've been trying to tell you guys, like, that ain't it. It's not it. They're not changing. They haven't changed to this point until they get new leadership and there's a whole turnover thing. I'm out on the PGA Tour. So,
Ben, we need to go before TGL is brought up, because we didn't even.
No, we stopped.
But I like TGL. No. I like TGL. I'm excited about TGL.
Right.
I am excited about TGL.
Stop talking about how much you hate the PGA Tour. We know that, right? Ladies.
No, I'm never going to stop. I'm never going to stop telling the PGA Tour how much they suck until they actually change and, like, up level. So if you want to keep coming at me on Twitter, that's totally fine. Although
keep it for Twitter. Keep it for Twitter. Our listeners know you don't like them. We all agree. Right, we're going now.
A lot of our listeners don't like the PGA Tour too. So
yeah, good night, everybody. Yeah. Love you all. And in case you are wondering, I am still very, very, very sad about the Dallas Cowboys. We're dreadful, but we're not even bad enough to lose at the right time. So that's it. Goodbye.
No football talk either.